commissioned by the museum to build the Art of Video Games exhibition at the American Museum of Art in Washington, D.C., and this is actually going to go live in March of 2012. So this will be the first time that we've seen an art exhibition of this size at a museum of the caliber of the Smithsonian. It's actually a 6,000 square foot exhibition. So it's the largest that's ever been built. So it should be a ton of fun. And what this is going to do is actually look at all this, this medium as intended as an art form, much the way the founders of Electronic Arts sought the artistic application and realization of humanity within technology. We're now able to finally do this and bring that recognition to these sorts of platforms. So this exhibition will be presenting the evolution of the art form across generations of technology, while revealing echoes of design that persist and permeate from generation to generation. It will elevate the opportunity that games represent as an artistic medium. And as I've mentioned throughout this entire presentation, it will observe the intertwined relationship between games, technology, and society over the past 40 years, and the influence that games and technology have on popular culture. Right? So these are the sorts of things we're going to do. And so I'm going to just hit you with a recap, and then we can open it for questions. So the Internet is the most powerful, transformative communication platform in the history of mankind, period. It just absolutely is. Our children will never know a world without global connection. And again, using it to its best effect is our responsibility today, to lay the groundwork so that way they are able to use it for their best application. New generations are driving the application of multiple communication vectors, and games and play are becoming important components of discovery, communication, and education. Games and media are being accepted as norms. And remember, folks, this is still in the very early days, and we don't have all the answers, but the opportunity for future generations truly is staggering. I leave you, as my final point, when we talk about it not really happening yet, to use the Internet and these services today is a conscious decision in which to do so. We do not have the same consideration when we flick on a light switch, or we pick up a phone, or we pump gas into our cars, right, of the networks that it takes to put these things together. The example I give people all the time, and this is when you know the Internet's really going to hit and when we're going to see the real explosion of the Internet. You'll be sitting at home on a Saturday, and there'll be a knock at the door. And as you get to the door, the UPS guy is pulling away, and on the front doorstep is a box, little 2-inch by 2-inch box. And you open the box, and you pull out this little rubber washer, and you pull out a little piece of paper, and it's from KitchenAid. And it says, open up the top drawer of your dishwasher, open this flap, take out this washer, put this one in, because your dishwasher has said that it's at 97% usage, so we just shot you a new one out of the warehouse. That's when the Internet becomes truly pervasive, and that's when the explosion really happens. So with that, we'll open up for questions, and I thank you for your time and for your patience in all the technical issues we had in the beginning. So I agree with you, Linda. That's exactly right. We need to learn how to assist our students so they can use this to its best and positive effect. But it isn't just right? We need to make sure that we're also training our educators. So let's see. So Carlos here, it says, you're concerned for the use of communication technologies that blurs the ideas of final products versus drafts. Again, it is a danger, right? It is something that we have to make sure that we are providing a guiding hand for. we wouldn't turn our kids blindly onto media without knowing what it is they're consuming. We shouldn't assume the same thing here. So I think it's all about balance. It's finding that balance. You know, what is very interesting, there's a great book that I'll recommend. It's called Game On, I believe is the name of the book, and now I'm completely drawing a blank on it. But I'll make sure I get the link for you. It's basically a study that was done by Harvard on the impact of gamers moving into the workforce. And what they're finding is the ability for them to move seamlessly between groups, to come together to solve problems in very unorthodox ways, is proving to be invaluable to business. In fact, this is one of the things that we discovered in the conversations we had down in the the Department of Defense's Worldwide Education Summit. I was speaking to a submarine commander who said that, you know, the military is set up to have, you know, new recruits come in and they're told what to do and they go do and they follow the orders, and there's a very structured hierarchy, and this is how it works. And the thing that the military is struggling with today is kids are coming in with questions. You don't question the military when you come in. You do what the military tells you to do. And they don't want to do this. Not only do they not want to do it, the military is opening up to allow that, because what they're finding is that if they can tell them what is required and give them the parameters in which things need to occur, they're finding the most amazing ways of solving the solutions and doing things like reducing casualties on both sides, reducing cost, doing things much more efficiently. One of the examples they gave was in open water submarine maneuvers, how 3 kids today are doing the job of 6 just 5 years ago. And they're moving these, you know, multi-billion-dollar nuclear submarines in ways they never thought were possible. Because they said, just tell us what you expect us to do, and we'll find where the limitations are. Now, it doesn't mean we hand over the reins of these facilities willy-nilly to anybody that thinks they've got a better idea. But the willingness to listen and understand that communication is always evolving, it's always changing, means that we may have to adjust what we may consider a finished product. It may not fall into the category of what we consider to be proper structure today, but may very well be a proper structure 40 years from now. And I'm not saying, again, you know, I agree here too with Gene that, you know, that it is all about our guidance, right? And we need to tell them, but at the same time we're guiding them, we also need to be open and receptive to understand that just because it was done that way before doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right for our children in the future, right? And that's something that both sides have to come to grips with, right, and come to an understanding to. But I'm a stickler for punctuation. I'm a stickler for correct spelling as best I can. But you know what? How many of us have shot out an email without proper structure sometimes, or capitalization, or spell checking it thoroughly enough? You know, it just happens. But it's becoming more and more accepted because it's the way in which we're becoming more efficient in communication. It doesn't serve for all things. I certainly don't want to read a book written in leet speak or texting, but I'm happy to get emails done that way. Let's see. They can't spell because MS Word does it for them. I'm on the Army Advisory Board and just reviewed the new simulated gaming first aid classroom designed to develop conflict resolution, time management, writing skills, test taking, and first aid competencies. Target audience is moving downward to the JROTC level. So, Bonnie, maybe you can elaborate on that. And let's see, the presentation information on teaching material using games in different subject areas. I'll make sure I get links back to Robert so we can post them along with the slide deck. So Greg says they can't spell because MS Word does it for them. And when MS Word doesn't do it for us, we grab a dictionary, right? Or a thesaurus. So, you know, it's very interesting. There's this question about whether or not our kids are learning to read, and whether or not reading is really, you know, this dying thing. I think much more important than reading, because we can learn to read from just about anything. It's writing, Writing is the critical piece because it involves both that transcribing, that translation of ideas into word and into structure, and we're reading at the same time. People learn to read and never learn to write, just are not effective communicators. I think writing is an absolutely critical thing that, by the way, we're seeing more and more of in the games industry because more and more narrative is being pumped into these things. So writing is at an all-time high in this side of the technology side. Well, making writing and reading enjoyable and pleasurable just like gaming, why not? I'll tell you right now, I blitzed through the last Harry Potter book in 3 days. I took off 3 days of work, and I sat down. I told my wife, I said, look, I've got so much vacation time jammed up here. I am going to sit down and while the kids are at school, and I'm just going to sit in the sun here, and I'm going to read through this book in 3 days. Guarantee I didn't do that for a maintenance manual for my car. Right? So, yes, we do kind of tend to go to pleasure for these sorts of things. Linda says, don't think we should blame the computer or the internet. We need to develop our instruction to make the tools work to the student's advantage. 100% correct, Linda. I agree with you completely. And this is exactly the example I was bringing up with the calculator. Right? It's not the calculator's fault. The fault lies strictly in the fact that we did not change the way we taught mathematics to include the calculator as a tool. Instead, it sat there as a crutch. And this was the problem. In fact, one of the most disturbing facts that Jeff gave me during their research, and they've been doing research on this for about 7 years, is they found that a program, and I forget which state it's in, which is probably good because I don't want to throw that out there, but in one state they found that in the senior class population, in one particular year of this program they were trying, a solid 50% high school graduates could not do basic algebra. And when they went to the state board said, we do not have the facility to keep these students in. You have to advance them. So we moved a generation of students out into college, a solid 50% with no foundation in mathematics. That is a travesty, right? We can't blame technology. It's what we do with it. The cadet is just starting physical fitness and wellness training through stimulated gaming first aid along with STEM. That's right. Exactly right, Jack. Tools are tools. And Jean says, amen. Amen. Or engage in games that will help them learn algebra. Really cool. There is a slide that I didn't put in here, but I did have it at in the slide deck that I gave at a previous NUTN conference. There is actually a first-person shooter that teaches algebra, and they're finding the exit scores of these kids that play it are in the 80th percentile because they're removing the frustration and barrier to learning the rule set by wrapping it in something that is entertaining and engaging. And through that, they are reducing or eliminating those barriers. I will be honest with you. I did terribly in mathematics when I first got into computers. However, I was learning assembly programming. I could write in assembly at 12. I wrote my first full game at 12, which also required me to build matrix systems. It required me to go ahead and build data sets and all these sorts of things. But if you asked me to sit down and do this on a test, I couldn't do it. But if you asked me to build it for a game, no problem. So it really had nothing to do with the aptitude or my aptitude for the material. It had to do the way it was being presented to me. The computers and the games gave me a way to learn this, to understand it, in a way that traditional school had not. Yes, I will make sure we get the URL to the shooting game out there. Kids learn to read and write faster when they find a use and need for it. Absolutely true. In playing games, my middle daughter, she could type her name on the computer before she could tell me how to spell it. My son, who is only 4 right now, can fully use the computer. He can browse to Nick Jr., and he can play pattern and recognition games, and he knows how to go ahead and navigate around those sites. Of course, in our house, the computer that's accessible to the kids is where? In the kitchen. Why? Because then the parent's always there to help with them, right? We don't just turn them loose onto it. But even at 4 years old, he's already starting to read, right? So they will find a way to use these things. Teach the difference application.